Hello everybody, Veritas here with Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask on Mupen 64 beta. I'm going to be doing a little bit of a blind playthrough here. I say a little bit because I have progressed a little bit through the story, but after a malfunction with Mupen, it deleted my progress, so I'm just going to be doing a sort of a voiceover. Of course, this has already been recorded, so, you know, all that. But a little bit of trivia about Majora's Mask. It actually wasn't planned for the Zelda series. It was created by some of the original beta testers for Ocarina of Time. That's what it was. So they wanted a Legend of Zelda sequel to Majora's Mask, only they didn't have enough time. The producers and the director and all that of the original Ocarina of Time didn't want to spend their time and all that while they were working on other projects on something that was likely to fail. So the beta testers were given 1 year to create it. And, what do you know, it's a huge success, Majora's Mask was. The concept behind Majora's Mask is that it's a direct it is a direct time spin off of Ocarina of Time, where Link is a child. So, I'm not exactly sure where. I'd have to get out the Hyrule Historia, or whatever that's called. I don't own one, sadly. But the entire storyline of Legend of Zelda starts with Skyward Sword and then goes downwards. Well, somewhere along the line, Ocarina of Time hits and then splits off into Majora's Mask. And that's how we get Majora's Mask. Now, the way they did it in 1 year, if anybody out there is a coder or is a programmer, then you know how hard it is to code a game, especially if you're just a beta tester or even an alpha tester, which is interesting because, well, I mean, you have to have a basic knowledge of code to do those two things. But even the most basic knowledge will only get you so far. So what they did with Majora's Mask was, instead of giving Link all these powers and such, they gave him masks. So you get, let's see, you get the Deku mask in here, which you'll see up here pretty soon. You get, well, you get a lot of masks, that's for sure. In addition to that, they gave a time sequence in here. So what happens is that every 3 days you have to create a time loop where everything resets, which is pretty interesting. If you guys know about the grandfather paradox, then you know how complicated that can get. Of course, if you know Doctor Who, you also know how complicated that can get. So it's very interesting. But anyways, a little bit of trivia there. Now, this, of course, is the unskippable movie. So, right here, we're just going to follow Skull Kid, maybe grab a couple rupees along the way, into this hollow, I guess you could call it. Jump up these steps. Of course, you don't actually have to press a button to jump, and look at that backflip. That's amazing. You don't have to press a button to jump because, well, there were only so many buttons. And down into the everlasting abyss. And here we can actually see some of the masks that you're able to get. The white ones are the Zora masks, the yellow are the Goron, or the Goron, I'm not exactly sure. Of course, you land on a Deku Scrub's flower. And Skull Kid, of course, is levitating, not by his own power, but by the power of Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask is a very interesting thing. According to the Zeldapedia, which I wouldn't trust as much as Wikipedia, and I don't trust Wikipedia at all, but, of course, this is canon, this is fan This is all fan material gathered into one thing by the fans, straight from Word of God, which is, of course, Miyamoto, I think. Can't remember exactly. But Majora's Mask was a tribal artifact way, way, way back when. Perhaps in the later Zelda games we'll get a glimpse of it or something. I'm not exactly sure. But its power was pure evil. So it was sealed in a mask. Of course, the tribe died out and all that. So the exact powers of the mask are unknown. But it seems that Skull Kid, which you can actually find in the Mysterious Forest, I think it's called, in Ocarina of Time, seems that Skull Kid has gotten a hold of Majora's Mask and used its power. So that explains why he's able to transform Link, who is... I'm not even sure if he's an elf. I think he's a human. But why he's able to actually transform Link into a Deku Scrub, which is a completely different race, which is interesting. And of course we get the obligatory Navi scene here, only it's Tuttle, I think? Tattle. And of course, Tail, I think. I'm not sure. I'd have to check on that pronunciation, but it's really interesting. But here we see of course, the Deku Scrub's powers. You've got the spin attack. You gotta go through this door, open it, and here's where the real game begins, because you actually start the game off as Deku Link, and you gotta go back to Deku Link a lot. Of course, you know, you can do that with the help of a mask you get later on, which is a lot easier than staying Deku Link the entire game. But, yeah. So, here's the beginning of Majora's Mask. Of course, we got the same mechanics for Navi, and we got Link turning to the camera, breaking the fourth wall, of course. And, of course, up is the shield, I guess you could say. You gotta go to this Deku flower, dive into it using B, and then jump back up. Go through this door here, and then here's where the real fun begins. So I'm just going to save here, use the save states, and of course, here we are. Later guys, Veritas, signing off.